Ladies and gentlemen, drivers, gig workers, and everyone in between, welcome to This Week in Rideshare podcast. I am your host, Jared Hoffa. It is Friday, January 23rd, and this week we are talking accidents, injuries, passengers, and robotaxis. And as always, Legal Rideshare breaks it down. And from Legal Rideshare, I'm joined by the co-founder and lead attorney, Brian Greening, and special guest today, Torsten, the Rideshare Professor, joining in to help us out with these topics. Gentlemen, happy Friday.
Happy
Happy
Friday.
Friday.
We just talked before we started recording this. We got to start doing this more often. There's so much to talk about all the time. Torsten, I couldn't agree more with you on that,
Yeah.
on that subject.
As I was saying to Brian, sorry to jump in there,
Yeah.
but it's changing so fast, the industry right now, and there's so many topics. So by all means, let's make this a monthly or, 2 monthly thing. We have a lot to cover, and your channel is great. It informs the drivers when it comes to the legal side, and then I talk a lot about the news. So I'm all for that. All for that.
Excellent. And actually, this is a good segue. I know a lot of people know who you are, but I think it's great in the beginning of these just to refresh everyone on, Torsten, what you do, who you help, how the channels are. So if you don't mind just kind of introducing yourself again and explaining kind of what your focus is and what you do.
So the channel is called Rideshare Professor. I've been in the sort of social media field for many years, and have built a good following. Being one of the largest recruiters for Uber and Lyft back in the day, and today I work more closely with law firms, obviously covering your arena accidents, but also the wage issue, a lot of sexual abuse cases right now. So it's an informative channel. It's a business channel. I run a big fleet of cars. So what I try to teach the drivers is how to climb this ladder, right? If they're frustrated with that 70-30 split, 70% for Uber and Lyft and 30% of them, it might be time to get out and actually go solo, fly solo, and start your own company. So, and then I love working with professionals. I love building out long relationships, like, for example, with you guys, which bring a lot of value to my channel. So it's inviting people in and being as informative as possible every 24 hours.
Yeah, and it's great. I think a lot of times we lean on each other. Sometimes I'll see an article or a topic from you, and then Brian and I will discuss it, or vice versa. I think sometimes you've jumped in after we covered something, so it's a nice give and take. Our channels are a little bit different, and they complement each other. And it's a win-win for drivers and everyone in the rideshare community because we're doing that. So
Absolutely.
and of course, Brian, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. I know most people know who you are, but
Oh,
it never
please.
hurts to plug
Yeah, we
yourself when
know.
you get the chance.
True, it's true. We know who he is.
Oh, come on, guys. Well, before I start, talking about myself, I do want to thank Torsten for coming on because, you are the man when it comes to rideshare information, and we love your channel. We send people there all the time for, like you said, information just about the business, about the industry, about how to really treat yourself like a business person in this world. Because if you treat yourself any other way, you're going to fall behind. And I think
Yep.
the information, Torsten, that you give just really helps people grow and maximize their earnings. So we love having you on, and you're a rock star. So thank you for being here.
And greatly appreciated. I love being on your show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
So back to your question, Jared. For those of you who don't know who I am Bryant Greening. I am the head attorney and co-founder of Legal Rideshare. We are a law firm that helps drivers, passengers, anybody who's injured in a car accident related to Uber, Lyft, or any other gig activity. So we help people who are injured collect things like medical bills, lost wages, pain and suffering, all the damages that you might sustain in a crash. We help put money in your pocket from the insurance companies to compensate you for those things.
Excellent. So we're going to get started here on our first topic, and both you guys feel free to weigh in when it makes sense. This first thing that we're talking about is about accidents, and I really want to hear from both of you guys on different perspectives. One from the legal side, Bryant, and then Torsten, also from you, from your personal experience, from the community, and what people are saying. So The first thing here out of the gate is what are some of the most basic rideshare accidents? And Brian, I'll start with you on this because you handle, specifically the accident and injury side. But what do you see the most? Who's calling you the most about these accidents?
Yeah, so I mean, rideshare accidents in a lot of ways are like car accidents. They happen in a variety of ways where, it can be a rear end, it can be somebody running a red light, it can be somebody, disregarding the right of way, coming out of a driveway. We see everything. They run the gamut. But at the end of the day, what we're concerned about is, who caused the accident, who was injured in the accident, and how can we make these injured persons whole for what they've been through. So we see every sort of accident come through our office. And what's crazy is it's not all car accidents. When you're in the rideshare world, we handle dog bites, we handle slips and falls. So there's all sorts of ways that people are getting injured in this space. And at the end of the day, the losses that they sustain are real. There's medical bills that need to be covered. If you can't drive, you can't work. Meaning there's lost wages that need to be recovered. So we're helping people in all sorts of situations navigate their way through insurance claims and ensuring that they're adequately, properly compensated for what they've lost.
Yeah, and Torsten, I know a lot of people have reached out to you about accidents as well. I think you even have some pretty interesting stories about people who've reached out to you regarding accidents, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think that you are immune from accidents and this is never going to affect you, if you think, I'm such a great driver, it can happen tomorrow morning. It could happen next week. It could happen in 2 years' time. The bottom line is, when you're out there and we're being pushed as drivers more and more than ever before, fatigue is real. You see more and more people fall asleep behind the wheel because they're just pushing insane hours. You drive around, you see people texting. Take a trip as a passenger and jump into the back of an Uber driver's car or a Lyft driver's car, and quickly you will see that the driving behavior of all, let's say you take 10 trips, is not the same. Some love speeding, some love tailgating. I've seen people text while I'm in the back, and that's your life on the line, right? They may not realize it at that moment, and the next thing they're on the phone and they smash into the car in front of you and get whiplash, etc., etc. So accidents are real. I mean, you don't pretend that'll never happen to you. Um, Everyone's had them. If you're a stellar driver, I mean, I'm 56 years old. I've had two accidents. Um, the statistics are there. Somewhere down the line, especially as we get older and maybe less alert, this can happen. And what I typically do is, I get a lot of emails and text messages, and I'll look at them, and a lot of people share the photos of their car, and I'm like, geez, you actually got out of that car alive, or you know what I mean? They want to share this incident with me, and it's a very, they want guidance. So the good thing is that we have, and when I say we, Legal Rideshare, you guys and myself have established this relationship for years. So the choice is easy because I know what service the drivers get. I listen to them as best as possible, and then I provide them with all the details, the email, the phone number, and then they call you. And then somewhere it circles back to me and say, thank you so much for introducing me, because they handled that whiplash case, or I didn't actually realize I needed to go to a doctor right away and to the ER. So I'm glad I went and got that report. I could have had brain injury. I could have had. So that's what a lot of people are just pretending like it's never going to happen. It can happen. I'm not saying it will happen, but it can happen.
Yeah, well, and Torsten, I would jump in on that. I would give you just the tiniest bit of pushback here. It
Okay.
will happen. Because the more time that you spend on the road, the more likely this is to happen. And most of the time, it's not about how good of a driver you are. The vast majority of cases that I handle, the driver did nothing wrong. It
Okay.
was somebody not paying attention to their surroundings. It was another driver pulling out of a driveway when they shouldn't have. It was another driver texting and rear-ending the rideshare driver. So
Yeah.
you can control yourself, and even if you're the safest driver in the world and you would never cause an accident. I know a lot of drivers who I would be shocked to find out that they were the cause of a collision because they do take this super seriously.
Yeah.
those are still people who have come into my office injured because other people around them have acted negligently. So it's,
Very,
are you going?
very, very true. Yeah. I mean, I didn't really explain that side, but you know, things are constantly happening around you in all lanes. So it takes a millisecond, and a truck can crash into you, or somebody runs a red light, right? You think that's a
Yeah.
green light for you, but it's a red light for them, and they hit you in the intersection. So 100% correct. Yes.
So
And this
just
and this
go ahead.
yeah, say and this actually I'm glad you guys brought this up because my next question is this leads right into it, right? You guys are basically saying, look, this is inevitable, it's going to happen. So and there's a lot of like sort of to-dos, and I kind of want to nail this down. Like, what is the best ways to be prepared, for an accident or after an accident, whether it be dash cams or just preparation? And you guys can both weigh in on this. Brian, if you want to go first, just it's like you said, it's gonna happen. So how do you prepare yourself ahead of time for this?
Yeah, so we tell people that preparation is the key because it's a really stressful situation when you find yourself involved in a crash. Obviously, that's not how you plan to start your day. So knowing how you're going to handle that situation from the get-go helps you make the right decisions when the time comes. We tell people all the time that dash cameras are of the utmost importance. That's going to be the evidence in your insurance claim and your injury claim. What happened? If you're involved in an accident where both drivers say that they had the green light, well, the dash camera is not going to lie. So that's going to prove your case and really help substantiate what you're trying to prove, which is that the other driver's at fault and therefore you should be adequately compensated. And the other thing is just knowing the steps to take after a crash. Like we have a driver checklist that we encourage drivers to download on their phones, just so that when something happens, they can go literally down the list and say, okay, I'm going to call the cops because I want to make an accident report. A lot of drivers don't want to do that. Okay, I'm going to check on my passenger. And if the passenger needs medical attention, I'm going to get that, call 911 right away to get them an ambulance. I'm going to take photos of the scene. I'm going to gather witness information because that has a way of being harder to find or just disappearing in general. To know how you're going to handle it from the start saves you so much aggravation, ensures that you're preserving the evidence and information that you need to help you later, and ultimately, from our perspective, is going to make sure that you've got a more solid foundation for your claim, which means getting every single dollar that you're entitled to cover all those losses.
Yeah,
Good.
and
Good.
Torsten, I know you have worked with and talked with a lot of preventative and recording features like dash cam companies for accidents. So I'm happy to hear and love to hear your thoughts on that
Yeah,
side.
I mean,
If you want to.
it's like every driver should have a dash cam in their car. There's really no excuse, and it pays to spend $200 or more on a good dash cam, because the difference between a $50 dash cam and a $200 dash cam, and for example, the Viofo, which won the best for 2025, the most premier one, runs at $500. But you're filming in all directions, meaning you're capturing everything. And like Bryant already correctly said, when things go south, when things go wrong, this thing's going to save the day, right? In many ways. It's not just the accident. It'll save you from the deactivation. It'll save you from, if somebody breaks into your car or hits your car, as a hit and run, and you happen to be, in a zoo or in a park or Six Flags, and it's all captured because it's activated, and it'll save you. But what I want to add to Brian's list of points there, what drivers don't realize, they're pushing more and more hours to make up and compensate for the lack of earnings, because the take rate has gone up and up and up in the company's favor. So they're pushing more hours. They're getting more tired. They're spending more hours on the road, right? You need to take a break. You need to take maybe a little 20-30 minute nap. You need to go over your car regularly. Is my tire pressure good? Are all my ball joints and everything underneath the vehicle up to speed? Have your mechanic check that. It may cost you a little bit more per year, but that could be the difference between life and death. That could be the difference between an accident or not. And worst case scenario, you have another passenger in the back, right? So there's so many things you can do to minimize the risk of running into a serious accident.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that goes into, and you're right, and those are such small things that can make huge differences down the road.
Huge.
It's as you've said many times on our program and your own videos. It's your business. You're investing in your business, and truly your life. So it's crucial.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and this actually, and we're going to move on to the next topic about injuries, because this is, I think, a good time to bring up kind of along the same lines. And Brian, I'm going to start with you on this. Where, what have you seen where the injuries are more serious than people think? And then when is it time for them to go, okay, I need to talk to a lawyer. I need to talk to Legal Rideshare. I feel like there's a threshold somewhere where they may brush it off, but it's way more than they think. And when's it time to call?
Yeah, it's a really good question because a lot of drivers really try to be heroes. They get involved in an accident, they say, "I'm fine, I'm going to keep working. I can't afford to take time off. I'm just going to let this go." And when they feel aches and pains that initially don't seem so bad, those aches and pains can get much worse over the coming days and weeks. And if they don't take the proper steps to protect themselves, all of a sudden what was a easy slam dunk case for them to secure all the treatment that they needed to get that all paid for becomes a much more difficult case. What we tell people is if you're feeling anything, if you're involved in a crash and you feel any sort of pain, any sort of tightness, weakness, go get checked out. You don't have to go necessarily sit in an emergency room all day. Go to an immediate care, go to your primary care doctor. Just get some medical professional to check you out, do some basic examination. Maybe you need an x-ray. Like this is all very simple stuff that's going to tell you, are you injured? Do you need follow-up care? Or is this all going to resolve in a day or two? By doing that, you're setting a solid foundation for the case. You're getting treatment in close proximity to the crash, meaning the insurance company is not going to say, "Oh, well, you waited a week or 2 weeks to go to the doctor. What else happened during that time? Or you must not really have been that hurt." You're getting that immediate attention. If things then get better, okay, no harm, no foul. You've got a small bill, $100, $150 for an immediate care, and that'll get taken care of, no problem. If things get worse, then you have set yourself up in a position where you can go get that follow-up care. You don't have to worry about not setting the foundation for your case where the insurance company is going to give you pushback. You can get the physical therapy that you need, the MRI that you need, the pain management, God forbid the surgery, whatever happens. By getting that initial treatment, you're able to help yourself move forward if things progress, if things get worse, in the worst case scenario. And I know I'm rambling here, so I'm going to answer your question about when to contact a lawyer with just a couple words. You want to call a lawyer immediately. So if you get into an accident where there's any sort of pain, any sort of stiffness, really, even if not, call us. The consultation's free. We'll talk about what you need to do, what you should do, the reports you need to make. We'll make sure that you're setting that foundation, and it costs nothing to have that call. So I've rambled again. The answer is immediately. Call us immediately.
No, it's great info. And Torsten, I know because you have emailed me directly. There's many times drivers reach out to you and you tell them basically
Yeah.
the same thing. Guys, what are you doing? You should be going
Yeah.
to the doctor. You should be calling Legal Rideshare. Don't hesitate.
Yeah. And I mean, and this is why these videos have to be made again and again and again, because there's also a lot of newcomers to the business, right? To rideshare that haven't been exposed to videos like this. The first thing you do, I mean, your arms and your limbs, I mean, you can break something, you can crack something, you can get a fracture. But this section up here, your brain and that, if you just feel lightheaded, or if you have swelling of, interior swelling of the brain, this is nothing to play with. This is absolutely nothing to play with. So the first thing you do is, if you can't drive yourself to a doctor or to an ER, have your wife, your girlfriend, your friend saying, "Listen, I'm not feeling that great." You need to go in. You need to get that checkup. It could be X-rays, et cetera, could follow. But the bottom line is, as Bryant already correctly explained, that sets the foundation for all your future therapy. Great if it's not too bad. You might, get a couple of months of physical therapy on a fractured knee or so. But if it's anything bigger than that, I mean, this can last for years, right? And go into a lot of money. So do not hesitate. The two things to do here, I've been taught by you, and even from my my past in the limo business, I've seen this. I've seen accidents. So there's two things. You go in, you get that doctor report or the hospital report or the ER, and consult with someone there, and then the next thing is you make the call to the attorney, and then you're on the right path. You're definitely heading in the right direction if you've done those two.
Yeah. Yeah, and very well said. And I want to jump into the next topic here because again, this is kind of a nice segue into leading into responsibilities and also passengers because we often don't talk about the passenger or that situation. Um, and I'd love to hear from both you guys. I'm going to kind of put these two questions together. Um, Really, it's what are your responsibilities as a driver to the passenger with an accident or without, and how do you stop them from you know changing the narrative, making false claims, and getting you in a bad situation? Because you have a lot of responsibilities here, but you also have to make sure that they don't say anything that's going to damage you. So, Brian, I'd love for you to start out there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the first thing to remember when you're in this business is the passenger is your customer and you are running a business and you need to treat them with respect and kindness and, I mean, really tenderness in a way, particularly in an accident situation. When
Yeah.
there is an accident, they're going to be looking at you for answers. They're going to want to know, what are we doing here? What is the plan of action? Assuming that you are physically okay and able to take charge of the situation, you should. You should be the one who's turning around and asking the passenger if they're all right, asking if they need medical attention, calling to get that medical attention if necessary. You should be the one who's out documenting the scene, talking to the police, and truly letting the rideshare company know that this happened. A lot of drivers will hold back when there's an accident and they'll be fearful of being deactivated or having some negative repercussion by talking to the rideshare company. You want to get ahead of it, provide the information about what happened, and showing the passenger that you're taking control, therefore they don't have to. If the passenger feels like they're vulnerable, feels like that you're not doing what's necessary to protect their interests, I think they're far more likely to make a report to the rideshare company that could go awry, that could say things, even if they don't mean to, could say things in a way that doesn't benefit you. Um, so really my advice here is, again, assuming that you're physically able, take control of the situation in a respectful way, but also like be the boss, be the business owner, be the one who is taking charge and making everybody else in the situation feel safe. Because if you do that, then you're going to be able to control much more of the narrative. You're going to have the respect of your passenger, and I think that is going to go, much better for you throughout the process.
Yeah.
Super good points. If I may add to that, right now in the rideshare business, there's multiple platforms. You could be on X, you could be in XL and have a bigger crowd in the car, family, right? Multiple injuries. You could be in a Lux or an SUV. My world, which is moving these drivers into sort of limo vehicles and that. I have a lot of millionaires and billionaires sitting in the back of my car. They're all humans. So the person who's in the back of an X vehicle on an X ride has to be handled the same way as that millionaire or billionaire, right? Because life is important the way, like you say, I like that, take on that boss role, right? Make them feel nurtured, make them feel comforted, calm them down, right? And people put a lot of trust. Like when I find out uh, why I get these referrals, and it's very interesting. They say, Torsten, people are referring you all over in Calabasas, Hidden Hills, because you take such good care of all these wealthy individuals' kids. I treat them like my children. If anything were to happen to them in the back of a car, it's like my child got hurt, right? So I know I always know where are the closest hospitals to my in my proximity. Where are their doctors? Where's their urgent care? And I've got that all mapped out throughout the city. So God forbid, hasn't happened, but it can happen. And I have to be prepared. And I like the way you explained it. It's like you like for these kids, I drive a lot of groups of children. I gotta then at that moment step in and sort of like act like their dad. It's okay. You can calm down. I got you. I know it hurts right now, and we're gonna get you to the ER. That's what their parents would expect from me. And of course, then I drive a lot of adults that have drinks, alcohol, etc., etc. So it's sometimes babysitting the adults is more than babysitting the children. You know what I mean? It's quite
Well said. Well,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Hilarious. All right. Well, our final topic today. I just, I think it's good to talk about it because things are changing so quickly, and Brian and I talk about this all the time. But Torsten, I'd love to start with you on this. What is the current mood right now of these robotaxis in California and the West Coast? What are you hearing? How are drivers feeling? What's happening out there?
You know what came to mind before you asked that is there's another topic I'd really want to touch on briefly, and that is the insurance,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because what I think is that there's just too many drivers out there that will just go and get regular car insurance when there are providers offering the rideshare insurance, and the Uber and Lyft wants to see the rideshare insurance. So you don't want to get into these battles with the insurance company. You covered, you're not covered, you have the adequate insurance, do you have the right insurance? Are you in the commercial field, and are you protected with commercial insurance? So I mean, there's three different insurances out there. So and I'm sure Brian can share a little bit more information. But the reason why I want to bring up insurance is because the last week I'd spent down here having meetings with attorneys, because there are some companies, for example, there was one in 2025 in October. They classified themselves as a software company, and they said we don't need the insurance, right? And where drivers, you're independent contractors, where you make the big mistake is you're trusting sort of a CEO of a company. I can mention the company because they're facing $10 million of fines and imprisonment. It's called Empower. The company's called Empower, and you putting all that trust into that founder or that CEO who doesn't have adequate insurance in place. Another battle that I was fighting the last 2 days, where I actually helped, I brought thousands and thousands of drivers into this platform, into the Fair Co-op, right? Into the Fair Co-op. And only to find out 2 weeks ago, the founder's not sharing this, but the insurance had lapsed in July. So there were drivers on the road driving for 90 days under a suspended license because the insurance wasn't paid, right? And then the license was revoked. After 90 days, the license gets revoked, and drivers were still on the road. So whether you're on the road as a driver knowingly or unknowingly, or you didn't educate yourself enough, or you didn't go online and check up, are they insured? All of this information is online. In California, we have the California Utilities, the Public Commission, right? You can see who's licensed, who's not, who's carrying, who's actually paid for that insurance. In this game, you got to pay to play, meaning you have to have your state license and your insurance in place. So I'm really asking drivers, and I want all the drivers at the Fair Co-op and Empower to think about this a moment. If you go out onto the streets and your hands are on the wheel and something like we've discussed in the last 20 minutes happens, does Empower, does Fair Co-op, or that other little startup company, do they have your back? Now with Uber and Lyft, yeah, they have these insurances. They have deductibles. You can look it up. They fully paid in all the states. They're up to speed. They have the money to pay for that. But that is your homework, right? That is the homework that you have to do as an independent contractor. You do not trust another person's, we covered. Don't worry, we don't have to get that, or we fully paid. It's up to you to check it up, because you're out on the road. And guess what? If you're in a private car and you don't have your insurance in place, A, you can't register that car, and B, the insurance company notifies the DMV right away, and the next thing they say, hey, your car may not be on the road until you come clean with your insurance. So insurance is important, my friends. It's huge, huge.
I could not agree more. And I would just say that, like, I was going to jump in with Torsten, and I mean, you hit everything on the head. What we've got with insurance is if you don't have the rideshare endorsement, you're not adequately protected, period.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bottom line. Your property damage, your bodily injury, injuries that you cause to others, like, you're just not adequately there. So I would just, I would say that. And, Torsten, I feel like where we are right now with we were going to hit
Yeah, we
robotaxis.
can. Yeah, I'd
I
love to talk.
really I feel like we should set a whole episode aside for it, honestly.
Yes,
Like,
I
rather
would
than
love to.
kind of push it down right now. Like, I think we were talking about doing this every other month or so.
Let's do a whole robotaxi segment because, man, there's a lot to talk about.
Let's do it. There's so much from an insurance standpoint. There's so much from injury. I know that it's hitting drivers super hard. So rather than have us, just kind of narrowly talk about it for a minute or two, let's set some time aside. Before we get going today, though, would you mind just telling everybody how we can reach you?
Yeah, so on YouTube, you can look up Ask Torsten or Rideshare Professor. You'll find me there. And then all my other social media channels usually pop up. So, I'm on TikTok and all of these other channels, young and old, where everybody hangs out. But my garage where everybody comes by to visit is the Rideshare Professor or Ask Torsten on YouTube. And put it on the calendar right now, the whole robo-taxi thing. And in fact, as the drivers are watching this segment, think about some stories of how you feel. What when we brought up that name robo-taxi, what type of feelings does that invoke inside of you? Email me or text me, or you know how to get hold of me. So I can bring up a couple of samples of drivers in our next segment and actually read out how they reacted when they heard that word robo-taxi. I think that'd be interesting.
Okay, Brian, and as always, I'll give you the final say before we head into the weekend.
Yeah, before we head into the weekend, I always remind everybody to contact LegalRideshare immediately if anything happens where you're injured on the roadway. So accident, slip and fall, dog bite, you name it, contact LegalRideshare. All of our contact information is on our website. It's legalrideshare.com. I also recommend following us on social media at LegalRideshare, where I would say we're a pretty good follow. I guess you'll have to be a judge for yourself. But time is of the essence on these cases. Do not wait to call us. Consultations are always free. It's better to call sooner and get that solid foundation rather than later and find out that somehow you fell through a trap door and messed up your case. So we'll leave people with that. And before we go, I just say one more time, thank you, Torsten. It's always a pleasure.
Yes.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. And thank you for educating the rideshare community. Everyone, this weekend, it's a big football weekend. On Sunday, there's a lot of drunk drivers on the road. Be careful, drive safely. We covered accidents and injuries today. Just enjoy yourselves. And thanks again. Until next time.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And as I like to say, that is the end of this week in Rideshare. See you next week.